Hey everyone! In my 100 mace guide, I used a very specific build and promised that if some people wanted me to explain it in the comments, I would do so. So there it is. I call it the Kazite Master of the Elements, and you will soon understand why. This build is made to allow you to quickly deal with any enemy with very little preparation. Its purpose is to turn the enemy's strength against them. Basically, I use Mace Infusion to imbue my weapon with the enemy's element and then beat it with his own strength. The first thing you might think is that enemies who use an element are generally resistant to it, and you'd be right. That is why we need to reduce the enemy's resistances as much as we can. For that, we have the fabulous Palladium Shield to inflict elemental vulnerability on shield charge, reducing the enemy's resistance to all elemental damage by 25%. You can get this shield by opening the Jewel Gate in the Old Marsh in the ruins next to the Giant's Village. Then in the very late game, we can also use the special mace skill Dispersion to further reduce the enemy's resistances to his own element by applying the appropriate hex, with this skill reducing the enemy's resistance to a specific element by another 25%. The hex also reduces the enemy's damage of this elemental type by 25%. The build also relies a lot on impact damage. For that we have the Marble Mace, enchanted with Weightless. You can get this made from ornate chests in the Enmerka forest, or from the weaponsmith in Harmathan. It has decent enough damage, inflicts confusion, and is fast due to the enchantment. And then of course we need the appropriate gear. This is a pretty expensive build. It uses the Orichalcum Plate Helmet with a Primal Wind enchantment for 10% more impact damage and 10% more ethereal damage, which makes you even stronger when using this element. Then the Master Kazite Chest and Boots with the Assassin enchantment for 15% more physical damage and 15% more impact damage. This set also gives stamina cost reduction and good resistances. All of this gear is obtained through legacy chests. You can get a black plate helm from the blacksmith in Berg or the armor smith in Harmathan. It can also drop in Chersonese and Enmerkar ornate chest. The Kazite set can be bought from the assassin merchant in Berg or in chests in the Antique Plateau. You can also get it from killing Kazite warriors in the Antique Plateau. If you do not want to use legacy chest, I would recommend using the Tyrannosaur mask with the elite plate chest and boots enchanted with Warmaster. Not as powerful, but good enough. You could use the non-legacy stuff, but as they have the same enchantment, but you would end up with low impact resistance and low resistances. It is possible to change the Marble Mace for the Mace of Seasons, which also inflicts elemental vulnerability, and the fabulous Palladium Shield for the inner Marble Shield which inflicts confusion. You would have more damage and slightly less attack speed, but you also would be more reliant on shield charge, as inflicting confusion is way more important than inflicting elemental vulnerability. I also do not like the look of the Mace of Seasons, and looks are very important in a good build. Now for the skills and breakthroughs. I use Shamanic, Hunter and Mercenary. Shamanic because of course despite having no mana, we are constantly using boons by absorbing them, and Shamanic Resonance increases both our damage and resistancing by buffing boons. Hunter because Predator Leap gives us some offensive potential and the ability to deal with multiple enemies at a time easily. We could use Warrior Monk, but Perfect Strike is not as useful as Predator Leap on this build, and we don't really need an extra parry for it, is perfectly viable. This build does not really have stamina problems. Then, I use Mercenary for the Shield Infuse skill to give us some more AoE and the movement speed and stamina cost reduction on running. It is also possible to use Spellblade and Gong Strike here, but this makes the build not as good at repositioning itself and traveling. I use the Luxury 10 for the stamina cost reduction bonus, allowing me to run infinitely when I have a stamina buff and a water buff. I also use Brace because it's way too strong and there is literally no reason not to use it on a melee build that does any physical damage. I have Enrage in my quick slots and Sweep Kick for the classic Confusion Sweep Kick instant knockdown. This build has some negative points, but they are minor issues. You lose a lot of damage when fighting an enemy that has no elemental damage at all. But they are rarely alone, and in dungeons you can steal the element from another enemy to deal with the non-elemental enemy easily. This build also has some durability issues. Skills consume durability, and you must be careful of where they're used. Do not use this version more than once in a boss fight. It is not necessary and will deplete your weapon's durability for nothing. You are pretty tanky, especially against physical and decay damage, and because you have the increased HP of the Hunter's skill tree, but you are not immortal, so be careful. I hope you will give this build a chance. It is way stronger than it seems and is very satisfying to play, at least for me. I'll leave you with some gameplay. Do not hesitate to subscribe to the channel, as I will show more of my builds in the future. I'll see you all. Bye.